and as promised, I'm back doing my very short, very quick reviews for the Oscar movies this year. No in-depth reviews of anything, but if you want to read more about each of these movies, I would recommend going to Indiewire. Indiewire is one of my favorite websites for movie and TVs. They always have great reviews. But if you're not into internet stuff and you want something a little bit more mainstream, I'll recommend Variety, New York Times, The Guardian. These are the ones I go to most of the time. Well, let's get to it. This is in no particular order. I know in the beginning will seem like I'm going alphabetical, but I'm not. This is just me trying to trick you. So let's get started. The first movie I'd like to talk to you about is The Big Short. The Big Short tells the story of the bank financial crisis of 2007-2008, and it has a very dense, complex subject, of course, that none of us understands. However, the movie was directed by Adam McKay, who is a comedy director, worked with SNL, did The Anchorman 2, I think. So the movie tries to bring a little bit of fun and lightness into it. However, I do feel like it follows too much on the footsteps of movies with a similar theme, like the math in Moneyball meets the financial world of Wolf of Wall Street. They try to do this whole sketch of, let me explain you this very complex thing, then they bring famous people to try and explain, and those sketches kind of fall short of both being funny and fully explaining something for us. I do feel like the whole narration and breaking of the fourth wall is very, very Wolf of Wall Street, and I'm not entirely convinced this is necessary for this movie, and especially not convinced that the character played by Ryan Gosling, even though we all love some Ryan Gosling, is important enough to be the narrator. Why is he the narrator? He doesn't even appear that much in the movie. That doesn't make much sense to me. As a whole, I feel this is very Hollywood formula and seems like an obvious pick for the Oscars just because it's an obviously Hollywood type movie. The second movie is Brooklyn, which is adapted from a book with the same name. It's an Irish film, so it has a little piece of my heart because of that. I love the characters, and I kind of like the story as well. I could identify with it. I even cried a little bit with the struggles of being abroad and away from your family and this whole stuff. I feel like the casting of this was magnificent. Saoirse most certainly is brilliant in this, but I also really like the choice of Emery Cohen for Tony. Yes, that's his name. He does the most adorable accent, and I believe Emery Cohen, I'm guessing from his name, might not even be Italian at all, but he does it so well, and I think as a whole all the accents are on point, and all of the secondary characters are so funny and have so much life to them, and I'm very looking forward to seeing more of them in the rumored, possible, maybe, who knows, TV series for this movie, which by the way won't have Saoirse in it, so don't even hope. But I do feel like the visuals kind of fall short of how incredible the story is, because the photography tries to do something that is very Joe Wright-esque, which is going from very big close-ups to wider shots. And although this works very well in some movies, I felt like somehow this didn't pull off so well in this one. It kept bugging me throughout. And beyond that, I also think the use of color was very obvious. Like, Ireland is very grey and brown with dull patterns and brain, while New York is obviously sunny and full of color and bolder patterns and bolder fashion. Like, isn't that obvious? Who didn't know this? Next we have The Martian. I think this movie was literally seen by everyone on Earth, maybe even on Mars. So I won't say much about the plot of this. I would just say that for a few years now, Hollywood and obviously the Academy has been fascinated with space-themed movies like Gravity or Interstellar. And even though The Martian follows the trope of someone abandoned in space all alone trying to survive and come back to Earth, it's also very different from most of the movies in this genre, or at least most of the recent movies in this genre, because it has a very strong element of irony and comedy. And I think the comedy is what saves this movie and what makes it great. I'm still not sure if it or Matt Damon's performance, which I loved, truly did, are worth the Oscars, but I certainly am happy to see the Academy acknowledging the comedy side of sci-fi. Mad Max! Mad Max is a blockbuster action film that most critics adored, but none of us were expecting for it to be nominated for Best Picture. But however, it was, and I think this is good. I really like that the Academy is acknowledging something new that Mad Max did. It seems to me that it has sort of a European aesthetic to it. It's kind of like you bring Antonioni to direct an action American movie. It really takes a little bit of those European trends of lack of plot and elongating time. For example, the sandstorm scene, which I guess lasts about 10 minutes, I would say, and it's such a phenomenological approach to it, and it's kind of like this European vision of cinema leaking into the most American possible blockbuster action movie ever. I also have to acknowledge the strong feminist side of this, and I'm really glad that this movie is running, because this was one of the most feminist movies of the year. Just stuck it to so many men out there that were like, whoa, Mad Max. The fact that Mad Max is not even important at all in a movie with the man Mad Max just shows to Hollywood and the world how much this is the age of female power. And last but not least for today, we have Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was not nominated for Best Picture, but surprisingly it was one of my favorites. Aaron Sorkin, when he's not being condescending and prejudiced as shit, does know how to write a very good script that keeps you on the edge of your seat even though you know everything that's happened in this before. Of course, aside from the brilliant script, the movie is owned by Fassbender and Winslet, who is amazing, and her accent is at the same time very subtle and well created. And I know this has been like the thing they say about Winslet's performance in this, but we do have to acknowledge how incredible this was. And although some people might say it is a little bit cheesy and obvious, I do like the time structure in this. They're jumping from big launch to big launch and how much it changed through the years. I know some people might criticize that, but I really like this structure. And I also love the theatricality of calling them acts in a way. So yes, I wasn't even thinking much about this movie because we all had a very bad Steve Jobs movie before, but I think I should have guessed that Fassbender and Winslet and Sorkin wouldn't be involved in a project that is bad. So I was very pleasantly surprised by this. And I really enjoyed this movie, so yeah. I'll see you all next Friday for more movie quick reviews until the Oscars. I'll see you soon. Bye!